Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube. I know it's a little late, and late's an understatement. A little late is an understatement. But I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July, this wonderful holiday in which we celebrate our nation's 250th year of freedom. That being said, I would like to give a sort of State of the Union address. Now, I'm not the president, but things are looking a little rough these days. For starters, I wanted to commemorate some of our founding fathers with some reading material. Now, I suggest you pick up this magazine. Probably not available anymore, but you might be able to find some left over. It's America at 250, a sort of wonderful magazine. Each pair of pages is describing a decade in this country. Everything from the pamphlet of common sense, of course, that is the Declaration of Independence right there, that wonderful painting of Independence Hall with the signing of Declaration of Independence. But something I did want to commemorate is just the sheer dedication of our founding fathers, this country's founding fathers, to the freedom of these United States. And I would also want to keep their dream alive because unfortunately I fear that our country's freedoms are slipping. They're waning, they're fading. With each new bureaucrat passing their law that constantly tries to undermine the average American's freedom, there is a problem. Because I will tell you this, if the founding fathers today, John Quincy Adams, by the way, those are two separate people. If you saw Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, to name a few, if they saw some of the laws on the books today, for example, the NFA, National Firearms Act 1936, they would be furious, and they would more than likely start a second revolution. Of course, I denounce all violence. Disclaimer. But part of this dedication started with a dream. Jefferson summarized a creed. Oh, and by the way, I am a little bit upset that a lot of these magazines tend to be a little left-leaning, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. Jefferson summarized a creed for a hopeful nation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. He then suggested entitlement to certain basic rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, that's a quote from the Declaration of Independence. We're actually going to read that in a little bit. Because at any time that a government becomes destructive to those ends, decides to fulfill power rather than duty, there is a problem. Franklin underscored the precariousness of such a treasonous act by reportedly noting, "We must all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately." Now this is, if you know your history a little bit, slightly prior to the battles of Lexington and Concord, when the British government decided to send troops to the American colonies to quell any chance of rebellion. Now what were these American colonies rebelling about? A lot. Large national debt imposed by the King of Britain, then George III, hefty taxes, etc. We're about to read through them right now. We're going to read the highlighted portions. If you want to know what the Declaration of Independence says, the Constitution says, you should pick up your own copy, become literate. Because I'm tired of hearing all these news anchors out there saying this is unconstitutional, that's unconstitutional. Quite frankly, they're bought and paid for actors. If you disagree with that, okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Don't worry, I'm patient. But here, Long story short, there's just here. One example is you were called a crazy conspiracy theorist during COVID if you said that COVID came from a lab. Period. Now, in the beginning, during the Trump administration, the news was saying, hey, it came from a lab. Biden administration shows up, all of a sudden you're crazy, you're fringe, you're a conspiracy theorist, nut job, right? That's what they said. But then later on, in the very later part, like the last year or so of Joe Biden's administration, then all of a sudden, the news anchors started saying that it came from a lab in Wuhan, China. And I forgot how the hell or what the hell made them admit to it, but something made them admit to that. You can go look it up. I'm sure you can also find this video, COVID era, of course. Apparently it's an era. But you can find this video of all these news anchors from all these different news channels, even opposing news channels, things like maybe Fox, I'm not sure. But, you'll just find left and right leaning medias all saying the exact same words, the exact same script. It was insane. And of course, there's other things. All you've got to do is take that red pill from Morpheus and go figure out how deep the rabbit hole is for yourself. The Declaration of Independence, 1776, in Congress, July the 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, one thing I would like to add in here before we continue, isn't it kind of funny how a lot of these government officials, namely Democrats, one reason why I don't like them, is because, I'm slipping up here. One thing I don't like about a lot of these politicians, namely Democrats, is that they typically try to remain with an atheist sort of view, an against God sort of view. Now, you can have your views on God all you want, but I will tell you this, from my personal experience, I know God's real. How? Miracles, baby. This past year has taught me nothing but that. Matter of fact, my whole life has taught me nothing but that. Desperate situations, need the rent money by the end of the month, otherwise the family's homeless, and all of a sudden, it came. By some miraculous happenstance, it came. Food for thought. Anyways, back to the document. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Now, I'm only reading the highlights because this is the meat and the potatoes of it. I don't mean to do anything else against it. Now, here are the charges. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. So these orange highlights and these pink highlights are slightly different. These orange highlights more point towards bureaucracy. Bureaucrats, political red tape, and all that other jazz. Whereas the pink is more direct. The pink is more outright oppression. Whereas the orange can be subtle, the pink cannot be hidden. And quite frankly, here in America, we're dealing with a lot more orange than we think. And it's a shame. But anyways, I'm just going to gloss over these really quickly. You can feel free to pause, read it yourself, because this is quite a long list, actually. Alrighty. Now to read the final part. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of a free people. Unfortunately, these days, we have a lot of politicians who fit the bill of King George III. And if they were given the power, they would do exactly as he did. Of course, like I said, pause the video, read through the pages. So, now to dispel some common misconceptions. Really quickly, it is an unfortunate truth in America. These AI data centers are popping up everywhere. Am I pissed about it? Yeah. Why? Simple. They take away your natural resources and they aid the government in freaking breaking your Fourth Amendment rights. Now, you want to know what that is? Again, pick up a copy of the Constitution, but Fourth Amendment rights, basically your protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. You heard of flock cameras recently? These AI flock cameras? They can be a tool for good, but the truth is, there was already 2 police chiefs who harassed their former girlfriends and former girlfriends' current boyfriends through these flock cameras, and falsely, they falsely stated on the documentation or whatever, hey, these people are potential drug traffickers. Of course, one was arrested, the other resigned. One was in Atlanta, Georgia. I forgot where the other one was. I think Florida. I think the one in Atlanta got away with it. Funny. Speaking of Atlanta, Georgia, and AI data centers, a lot of locals in Atlanta are actually pretty upset about the fact that they're being forced to sell their homes at undercut rates to make way. Now that actually, hold on, I'm going to pull it up for you right now, goes against a certain amendment in the Constitution. I think, hold on, don't quote me here, I'm looking. But I think it says in here that, hold on, where is it? There's something about just compensation. Hold on, I'm looking here, I'm reading. Well, I know I read it in here about just compensation. Hold on, I'm just trying to skim over this, but I might actually have to start reading it. Feel free to skip ahead maybe 20 seconds. Here we go. Okay, so it's underneath Amendment 5. There we go. So, really quickly, the Fifth Amendment. At the very bottom there, let's start by the word criminal case, okay? Slightly under that, actually. So, in any criminal case, to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, property, without due process of law, nor, there we go, the word nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. All right, well, outside of all that jazz of, the federal government wanting to encroach on your rights there, here's something else important. Unfortunately for us, we're in an era in America where... I'm sorry, I need to take a breath. We're in an era in America where we have a lot of socialism going on and communism. You look at that Mayor Zoran Mamdani in New York, and it upset me that Trump basically endorsed him. If you don't know that, now you do. Go look it up. Go look up the interview between Zoran Mamdani and Trump, and that actually ticked me off. Supposedly, according to Trump, the man is looking out for the best interest of New York. No, he's not. No, he's not. What that means, though, is that, wow, look at that. I've been betrayed. Anyways, just to dispel some facts for you, it kind of ticks me off how there is, in fact, socialist policies growing in America, which is a problem. That's a big problem. What do you people expect? Money growing on trees? It upsets me that there's so many books, history books, showing how time and time again, communism and socialist policies only really lead to three things. They lead to genocide, historically. They lead to extreme poverty among the people. And then it winds up leaving you with a totalitarian government. If you don't know what totalitarian governments are are dictatorships, but instead of your typical dictatorship where, you only pay taxes like King George had, it's the modern dictatorship. It's the one where you're not allowed to think the wrong way, because if you do, there goes the gulag. There goes the chopping block. Literal chopping block. Outside of that, here goes a little tidbit of history for you, real fun fact for you, for all you liberals out there who might be watching this video and want to say, oh, you Republicans are Hitlerites and Nazis and all that crap. Well, here goes something funny for you. Believe it or not, Hitler was a socialist. That is historical. Feel free to press pause and read all the highlighted sections. Okay. Long story short, the genocides that happened in Poland were equally Stalin's and Hitler's responsibilities, i.e. they're both very guilty of it, because they both agreed to it. If you paused the video and read it, you know what I'm talking about. Some other things to throw in there that I am upset about is how a lot of these by the way, I'm from a Democrat state. I used to live 15 years in a Democrat state, and it was hell on earth. Quite literally, the federal courthouse in downtown smelled of human feces and piss. So yes. But outside of that, my hatred for that place, the place, not, well, sure, the people too, I guess, because if they choose to go kill each other and be evil, that's on them. But here, some other things about these Democrat states that really ticks me off outside of the fraud, waste, and abuse that's in their spending budgets. And yeah, you can't tell me there isn't. I've been in Democrat and Republican states for years now, and Republican states have flat taxes, very low taxes, and surprisingly, their governments are more sufficient. They work better with less money? How's that possible? How is it possible that government with less tax money somehow, some way functions better than government with more money? And here goes something for you. So back in Indiana a couple of years ago, if I remember this correctly, memory serves, income tax was 6%. Either between 3 and 6%, somewhere around there. Income taxes in Chicago, 12%. Sales taxes were 12%, and then you owed an additional 2 or 3% to your local alderman, so total of 15% sales tax. Okay? And of course, Chicago, being a small city, that's a lot of money to be dragging out of people. How the hell do they still have filthy streets, destroyed roads, abandoned neighborhoods, piss-poor economies, and lots of crime, compared to its counterpart, Indiana? Well, not its counterpart, its neighbor, Indiana, which has way lower taxes, cleaner streets, safer neighborhoods, and an actual economy where people have jobs. It's kind of funny how that works. But another funny thing about these Democrat states, typically they're very anti-gun. They don't want you practicing your Second Amendment right, period. Now, it's kind of funny because King George didn't want the American colonists to be practicing their Second Amendment rights either, because the first thing he did was he sent the British military to capture their powder reserves, so that way they couldn't shoot them. But they sure as shit wanted all their taxes too, and they were going to shake down every American pioneer there to get it. So, food for thought. Outside of that, so typically a lot of these Democrat states do not want you whatsoever practicing your Second Amendment rights. Now that ticks me off for lots of reasons because it's paired with this next part. Democrat states favor criminals over the common citizen, the law-abiding. It is an unfortunate reality, and you might be wondering, well, where's my proof? What are the allegations? First and foremost, if you don't know what the term PDF.file is, PDF.file, go watch Donut Operator's video. I'm not associated with them, but I am subscribed. A PDF file, just go watch his video about deleting PDF files. You'll know what I'm talking about, if you don't know. Typically, Democrat states support these kinds of people and let them out early on parole. And the average PDF file apparently has anywhere between, I think, like 10 and 20 victims in their lifetime, maybe more. So imagine that, 10 or 20 children, completely just, their lives ruined, maybe ended. Matter of fact, a lot of them get ended. And these Democrat states, these same ones that says, oh, you shouldn't have a pistol with more than 10 rounds. Now, me personally, I'm not a fan of 9mm. I think it's a weak cartridge. But that's not the point. The point is principle. The same states that'll literally try to fry you for defending yourself, and I'll get to that in a second, that try to fry you for defending yourself, will let a disgusting pervert prey on your children. Yeah. Now, where's the proof? There's a couple bits of proof here. I'm just going to skim over this. This video was a little bit hastily made. I'm not a professional after all. I really am not. But if you read The Purple and go watch those videos, you'll find out very quickly what I mean. You go onto any news article. Matter of fact, when I first started finding out about this was around COVID. It's a terrible truth, but you know what? Typically, a lot of these left-leaning states do that, whether it's California, Illinois. I'm not sure about New York, but I mean, the chances are, hey, yeah, they do it. Because the thing you'll notice about a lot of these left-leaning states is that they're very similar, just like a lot of the right-leaning states are very similar. That's just the facts. Alrighty, well, anyways, outside of that, what else do we have on this list here? Hold on. All right, yeah. So about the whole they'll fry you for self-defense thing. I don't get how left-leaning states do this, but they literally, for some stupid reason, for self-defense, and it's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's not just one-off incidents. What you'll find is stories, especially if you pay attention to the news. Like, I remember this one story a while ago. Now, I'm going to get to the more concrete stuff because I do have one particular story that I do remember, and I don't have the video for it, but I'm sure you could find it. It's not hard to find. Worst case scenario, if you do have a hard time, I will leave you an email. Ask me any questions you like on the email. I'll get back to you. I will warn you, though, I'm only available on weekends because I'm a regular stiff with a full-time job. But here. There's this one story I heard a while ago about the shopkeeper. He actually shot 3 robbers who came to his store threatening to shoot him with a gun. And that state, I forgot what it was, I think it was Illinois, was trying to charge him for murder. Yeah, get that logic right. Man comes to your shop threatening to kill you, you shoot him first because he's threatening to kill you, pointing a gun at you, and they try to charge you for murder. But there's another story that really pisses me off. I mean, really, this one gets me mad. It's California. Man's a law-abiding citizen. He Comes home from work, it's nighttime, to his pregnant wife and his very young daughter, probably between the ages of 6 and 10. It's been a while since I've heard this story. And it's been a while. Any gun tubers should know who I'm talking about, especially guys like Coley on the Wire, because they're really good at picking up these stories. So I'd probably refer to them too. But there was this guy in California. He comes home from work. It's nighttime. This man's holding a weapon up to his pregnant daughter and his young daughter. Now imagine that. His pregnant wife and his young daughter are held up at gunpoint. What would you do? I know what I'd do. I'd do exactly what the father did. The father defended his family. Cost the robber his life, but that's what he gets. No offense. And the state of California, they tried to revoke his concealed carry license. They wanted him stripped of his weapons permanently. And they also, if I remember correctly, wanted to charge him for murder. Again, patterns. Of course, folks, that'll be it for today's video. I hope you take your time, do your research, stay safe out there. Of course, if you're good, be blessed. If you're some evil scumbag out there doing evil scumbag things, let God's judgment fall on you. And that's it.